What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Week 14 NFL Power Rankings. It is December football, man. We are starting to learn a little bit more about who the pretenders are, who the contenders are. We're seeing offensive line play matter more, injuries mattering more in December. I love it. So drop a like, follow me on Twitter at TFG_football, and let's get right into it here. Starting at number 32, the Oakland Raiders are going to stay put. The offense showed up this week against the Chiefs, a defense that has been, let's just say, on and off this year. But I will say throughout this miserable season for the Raiders, who come in at 32 because just their overall roster talent is anemic. But I will say that you do have some optimism for John Gruden and Derek Carr. I feel like this offense isn't that far away from being a pretty productive offense. So you're getting some flashes of an organization that is, 2-3 years away from being relevant, as they got a lot of work to do on that roster. Number 31, the New York Jets. They hung in there versus the Titans. Whatever. They couldn't pull it out. It's McCown. It's the Jets. 31. Don't think we're going to get much argument there. Number 30, the 49ers are going to come down one. They just haven't been able to really play well the last few weeks. This defense continues to really struggle. Just slaughtered by the red-hot Seahawks this week. I still think there's a very bright future here in San Francisco. Just isn't this year. And number 29, the Arizona Cardinals. They go into Lambeau Field, pick up a win. Not even sure if I'd be excited about that if I were a Cardinals fan. Glad to see Larry Fitzgerald have some more magic moments. But I do think that game was more about the Packers simply falling asleep on this team, who did come in and play pretty good defense like we know they can with Patrick Peterson and Chandler Jones. Number 28, the Washington Redskins. This team it's just done. Too many injuries. It's a big part of it here. You now got Mark Sanchez in there for the rest of the year. I mean, that should really tell you everything you need to know, but they do have other injuries as well. You could make a case for the Redskins to be below the Cardinals, I think, but we'll just leave them here because they are technically still in the playoff hunt. And then number 27, the Cincinnati Bengals. I can't think of a team that is free fall and faster than the Bengals. It started with the A.J. Green injury. Then you get some more injuries on the defensive side. The left tackle gets hurt. Andy Dalton obviously gets hurt. This team has just been vanquished by injuries. Going to be an interesting offseason for this team. They probably won't do anything with the coach or with Andy Dalton, but it probably is time, to be honest. At number 26, the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen has come in and really sparked some things for this Bills team. Now, they clearly have a ton of work to do. They got to put more help around him. I'd like to see him be more efficient, but I've always been a pretty big Josh Allen guy, and you're starting to see the flashes. He's just fun to watch, and he does remind you of a young Cam Newton a lot of the times. So really excited to see what Buffalo can do this offseason for Josh Allen to help along with his development. And while he doesn't have a whole lot of help in terms of offensive talent, I actually like his situation more than any of these rookie quarterbacks because I actually trust the coaching and the culture here in Buffalo to put good things around Josh Allen in a bit of a rebuild. And then number 25, the New York Giants. Big win against the Chicago Bears, showing that they can, really hang in there with a lot of teams. This team is out of the hunt, and I still think this offense is pretty bad, but they were actually able to do some things. They had the ball a lot because of the whole Chase Daniel situation. The Giants' defense played one of their better games. But, Saquon Barkley is special. I think he's the best running back in football, man. I really do. It's either him or Todd Gurley. But in this game, the Bears just weren't able to do enough defensively. The Giants, having the home field advantage, they pull it out. I do think it's one of those weird games that you don't look too much into. You had the Bears playing with a backup quarterback. It's hard to win with your backup in this league, especially on the road. This is actually a win that a decent amount of people saw coming. And then number 24, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've actually played pretty tough the last few weeks. They've reminded us that their defense is absolutely legit. And they come in and shut out the Colts at home. But the bottom line here is it's Cody Kessler who did a better job of Blake Bortles. He literally, you tell your quarterback, do not lose us the game. And that's what Cody Kessler did. He was like 17 for 23 and like 150 yards and no interceptions. That's exactly what they needed in this game with how their defense was playing today or on Sunday. And then number 23, the Miami Dolphins. They're going to stay put here. Everything kind of holds up about them. Pretty stagnant team. Can make some big plays. will try to win the game by creating turnovers and not beating themselves. I still like Coach Adam Gase. I think firing him would be a pretty big mistake, but this team just has a lot of work to do, simply put. Number 22, the Detroit Lions. They got pretty beat up by the Rams in their own stadium. Not much to really discuss about the Lions. Number 21, the Cleveland Browns. They ran into a buzzsaw in Houston this week, really kind of halting a lot of the momentum Cleveland had. They will now return home and play the Panthers this week. That should actually be a pretty fun game. Baker showing more signs being a rookie this week. It's going to happen. Going to be really interesting to see who this team goes with to be their next head coach. This team and my next team really going to be the top two head coaching openings here in the offseason. So the Green Bay Packers are going to free fall here down to number 20. Really just a pathetic performance this week against the Cardinals. And if you look at this game, if they could have won this one, and frankly they should have, you had, insert X practice squad caliber safety starting for the Packers. This week it was something called an Eddie Pleasant dropping what probably would have been a game-winning interception on the drive where the Cardinals then go on and kick the game-winning field goal. But all day the Packers were flat, and they did not deserve to win this game. They were clearly playing like a team, not necessarily trying to get their coach fired, but was not playing for their coach's job. So is it going to be Josh McDaniels? Do they reach out to Lincoln Riley here? It's going to be a big move. They need to get a coach that can work with Aaron Rodgers, that Rodgers can trust and not constantly change his play calls like it turned into with Mike McCarthy, where it just was not working. McCarthy's going to go on, maybe become the Cleveland Browns head coach. And maybe he can take a look in the mirror and become a better coach in the future where he doesn't have to deal with the quarterback constantly changing his plays. I've got my doubts. I think he's getting too much respect. I think he's been one of the worst play callers in the NFL for the last few years. He's had terribly questionable decisions on fourth down and such in terms of being a head coach. And his teams never stay healthy, which you could chalk up to luck, but over a 3-year stretch, how is it that your team by December is just ravaged by injury for 3 straight years? So I think he's done a terrible job. I think he should be given a year off. I wouldn't offer McCarthy a head coaching job, but somebody will. I wish him nothing but the best, but I mean, between the coaching, the front office under Ted Thompson, and frankly an ownership that has been afraid to make changes for 10 years, it really is shameful what the Packers have done in the last 5 years, really regressing as an organization, and really, Aaron Rodgers, simply put, is too good for them. So we'll see what they can do in the offseason. Let's move on. The Tampa Bay Bucks at 19. They're going to get a big bump here, +6. The offense is clicking, and Jameis is in there. He's got these guys fired up, playing well. The defense still stinks, but I kind of like what this team has going, and they're actually in the wild card playoff hunt. They have so many explosive players, at least at receiver, and Jameis can be an explosive quarterback. He played well against Carolina. He's definitely at least what you can say is I almost said Cam Newton. Jameis Winston is playing for his job right now, and I love to see that. I'm buying stock into Jameis Winston right now, believe it or not, after being very low on him for the last few years. Then the Atlanta Falcons, they're going to stay put at 18. They've been this team now for weeks. They can score. I know they did not play well against the Ravens. Credit a good defense for coming in and knocking them off. But the defense, not very good for Atlanta. I still think they're a team that you do got to bring it like the Ravens did this week to beat them, because on any given Sunday they can put up like 35 points just with Julio and Ridley and the guys they got going there. The offensive line has taken a big step back and is a reason for some of their inconsistencies this year on the offensive side of the ball for sure. So number 17, the Carolina Panthers, continuing to struggle. Really not much else to say about this team. I said pump the brakes 4 weeks ago when people were putting them in the Super Bowl bubble conversation in the top 5 of the power rankings. I had them a good bit lower. I said pump the brakes. I'm not buying in yet, and they haven't won a game since. And Cam Newton's been pretty bad. So that's the Panthers. And the number 16, the Tennessee Titans, just staying put. This is really where they've been all year. I don't want to talk about the Titans. I haven't wanted to talk about them for weeks. I think they are the most boring, competent team in the NFL, simply put. Number 15, the Denver Broncos, +4. Really heating up. Philip Lindsay is emerging as like the next Chris Johnson here. So explosive. Has just ignited this offense that needed a spark. With the emergence of the run game, you got Case Keenum playing better, the passing game working, and then the defense is benefiting from it as well. So everything is clicking better for the Broncos. I liked this team to be a wild card contender heading into the year, and they are certainly looking like that right now. And then number 14, the Philadelphia Eagles. They've rattled off 2 in a row. People kind of written them off after a big loss a few weeks ago. What was that, to the Cowboys? Well, here we go. They play the Cowboys again this week. I predicted the Eagles to win this division 2 weeks ago. I thought this would be a both teams 6-6 matchup. Well, the Cowboys actually upset the Saints, but the Eagles can be tied for first place in the NFC least with a win this week. So this is going to be a huge game, Eagles-Cowboys this week. And then number 13, the Baltimore Ravens. The defense has been very impressive for the last couple weeks with Lamar Jackson out there kind of chewing the clock, running the ball, sparking things up for this offense. You know, we're definitely, I think, seeing the best version of this team right now, where they're confusing teams by being creative on offense. It's not a high ceiling offense, but it does have, I think, a higher floor with Lamar Jackson than you had with Joe Flacco, and I don't think the ceiling is that much lower either. So it's an exciting team to watch right now. They're going to be probably in this wild card conversation here with the Broncos, and maybe the Colts, our next team here at number 12, can get into the picture here. But their record now is pretty far behind at this point. So they're going to drop 3 here. They go into Jacksonville and get shut out. The future is still very bright for the Colts. They have had a wildly successful season based on their expectations, and maybe they can do something remarkable here and sneak into the playoffs, but I think you're still pretty happy as a Colts fan, even if your season may have come to an end this week. But we'll see. I still think it's a very good football team. They showed this week that they can play defense, and we know that Andrew Luck's not a quarterback that's going to get shut out or frankly score less than 15, 16, 20 points every week. This was a kind of a weird game, and despite the Ravens and Broncos being ahead of the Colts in the standings, I would actually take the Colts in a head-to-head matchup between those teams. And then number 11, the Dallas Cowboys, moving up 4 spots, a big win against the Saints, and I can already hear Cowboys fans saying, "Oh, we knocked off your number 1 team. You ain't even gonna put us in the top 10. Like, get out of here. You ever watched football in your life?" Look, man, I've been high on the Cowboys defense since week 1, but this offense still really isn't much of a force to be reckoned with. The addition of Amari Cooper has taken you out of the basement in terms of offense, but it's still not a very good offense, and defensively, really good defense, but I'm not really sure how much in an offensive era we're trusting this Cowboys defense to do what they did against the Saints on a week-to-week basis. That was also, a primetime game, a short week where defense is going to play better, especially at home. So a great win for Dallas. They're making a strong push to be a playoff team this year, but I am going to say, if there's Dallas fans saying this should be a top 7-6 team, pump the brakes here a little bit. And then number 10, the Minnesota Vikings. They just haven't been very impressive lately. The defense has come on for sure, but Everson Griffin's returned, but he has not returned as the same player. He's playing frankly like a number 2 edge rusher right now, if not worse. The cornerback situation here is just a mess in terms of injuries. And the offense just can only do so much with that offensive line. So it's a good team. They got a lot of superstars. They're a well-coached team. But when you go into Foxborough, you're just going to be outmanned. And, Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, but he's not a guy that can really transcend all these injuries and kind of carry this team like an elite quarterback would. So let's move on to number 9. The Houston Texans have had kind of an impressive, unimpressive win streak here. A lot of games against bad teams, but, you play who's on your schedule, and they've had some blowouts. And this defense, man, they came in and just made Baker Mayfield, who has looked actually like one of the more decisive and careful with the football quarterbacks at times in the last few weeks, they made him look lost. And Deshaun Watson is playing lights out. This Houston team, I don't know exactly where I put them. They're kind of in this middle ground here between the top, elite teams here that I consider actual Super Bowl contenders, and these other teams who I think of as playoff teams but not necessarily Super Bowl contenders. Well, the best version of Houston on a good day, is one of the best teams in the NFL for sure. But we've also seen bad versions of this team as well. And I know it's been a while, but they haven't had to play any of these top teams. And we haven't really had to see them respond to what they're going to see in the playoffs. So credit them for a really good run. I'm buying into this team for sure. I'm just somewhere in between, I think, on this Houston team right now. And then number 8, the Bears are going to come down 1. And this is what's going to be funny, right? Because 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was way too low on the Bears. Said I didn't buy into Mitch Trubisky, that it's an offensive league, all this stuff. And then we see him beat the Vikes. We see this defense, truly establish themselves as the best defense in the league. And they go into New York and they lose with their backup quarterback. The defense can't quite do enough in this offensive league on the road to win them the game like they were able to do the week before in Detroit. It does show you there's a certain ceiling when you are a defensive-oriented team. But the fact of the matter is, they're a force to be reckoned with. They're probably going to get a home playoff game. They're going to get their quarterback back. And here I am now saying getting Mitch Trubisky back is a reason people are going to be too low on the Bears. You just can't overreact to this kind of stuff. And I'm still not high on Trubisky or anything, but he's better than Chase Daniel. So the Bears are gonna come down to 8, and then the Seattle Seahawks buying into this team. I think they might be the most fun team to watch in football right now. Just Russell Wilson, he's not necessarily coming out and being the most efficient quarterback, but he just makes big plays. This team really, you can summarize their success by good defense and just having these back-breaking plays, converting 3rd and longs. The deep balls, the big runs, this team it's kind of like a boxer that's going to shell up and then just come out and just whip you in the mouth. And, this really is a team that is a testament to why I say every offseason that coach and culture and quarterback, it really is almost everything. And yeah, you need other talent to be a team like the Rams or the Saints this year, but the Seahawks are really doing this with just a great coach and a great quarterback. There's nothing really that special about any other player on this team. They've got good players, but they don't have any other superstars outside of Russell Wilson. And Baldwin's definitely not playing like it this year. So really excited to see this Seahawks team get into the playoffs. I think they have kind of locked down that 5 seed at this point. They are going to play the Vikes this week. It's in Seattle. I'm pretty confident they'll win that, but it could be close. So let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 6. I'm still holding on. It wasn't a bad loss. They played very well against the Chargers until the 4th quarter, really. And that's a damn good Chargers team. They beat themselves in Jacksonville a few weeks ago, and they beat themselves in Denver last week. So it's a team that can't buy a win. They're still playing pretty well. If you just look at the eye test, I still actually trust this defense a decent amount to be serviceable and for this offense to be able to put up 20-plus points against anybody. So I'm not writing the Steelers team off. They haven't been able to buy a win, but they still have a lot of talent and are built, in my opinion, for December football. And then we're going to have those Chargers at number 5. It was so good to see Phillip Rivers getting a big win in primetime television. I honestly don't remember it happening. It feels like so long ago that this team was a relevant playoff team. And I tell you what, no one wants the 4th seed in the AFC right now because no one wants to play the Chiefs or the Chargers in the first round. They're a better team on the road. I think they get discouraged playing at home in their own stadium and seeing it basically being a home field advantage for the other team against most opponents. But they kind of play with this chip on their shoulder on the road. They're going to get Melvin Gordon back here. Who knows about this Hunter Henry situation? I wouldn't expect anything there, but who knows? I did not think they were going to be able to be that good offensively without Melvin Gordon, who has been just special this year. It could have looked a lot different with Melvin Gordon in there. They could have been in control for the whole game if they could have had that running game going a little bit. But this defense, man, with Joey Bosa now and the way Derwin James has just, fully established himself as one of the best safeties in the NFL already, I will just stand by or go on record and plant my flag that this is the best roster in the NFL, from quarterback to the defense. Like, it's just every position is just loaded outside of maybe the offensive line, but the offensive line's played pretty well. And if they are to play my number 4 team here, the New England Patriots, in the playoffs, it is going to be a clash of culture and just raw talent, because the Patriots, who I have been down on their roster talent all year, and they have had points earlier on in the season where roster talent matters a little more, scheme, it really sorts itself out here in the fourth quarter, fourth quarter of the season. But coaching and offensive line play and quarterback play really hypes up this time of year, and that's just where the Patriots just, they bred their butter. And this game against the Vikes was just another reminder that this team is just a freaking machine. There's no team in the NFL that you know exactly what you're getting every week, and that's the Patriots. You're going to get a machine of an offense that is basically just going to chip away at you with screens and Tom Brady and the short passing game. They'll mix some shots in there, sure, but it's mostly just going to chip away at you offensively. They're going to try to run the ball if they can, and defensively they're going to play some of the best bend, don't break defense you're going to find. And the emergence of Trey Flowers as a legitimate number 1 pass rusher has changed the tone of this defense a little bit, who has not had that pass rusher since Chandler Jones. So I'm definitely buying into the Patriots a little more. My gut tells me this team's going to be in the Super Bowl again, because I don't think the Chiefs are really built for playoff football right now with the Kareem Hunt situation. And we'll just move on and talk about the Chiefs here at number 3. So the defense proving that they still are struggling. And I love Patrick Mahomes, but he's young. He's proved throughout this season that he is going to turn the ball over. And in playoff football, I don't know how much I trust Mahomes yet. We just haven't seen it. And this team historically, I get that this has been a different type of Chiefs team. They have a different ceiling this time around than they had with Alex Smith, certainly. But this Chiefs team has been a team that really drops off here in December and into the playoffs. I mean, hell, the Titans beat this team last year in the playoffs in Arrowhead. So I'm fading this team a little bit. I still think they're incredibly explosive offensively, and they can beat anyone. I don't want to lose sight of that fact. But with this Kareem Hunt thing, it is a bit of a culture shock for them. They're already moving some pieces, bringing Charkandrick West, working C.J. Anderson out. I like Spencer Ware, but I don't know if they trust him to stay healthy the whole season. That probably explains the C.J. Anderson look. So just keep an eye on this Chiefs team. I'm going to keep them here at 3. The offense showed up yet again this week. And if you score 40 points, doesn't really matter who your running back is or how bad your defense is. Like, you can really beat anyone. And then number 2, the LA Rams. Jared Goff was bad this week, but this team still just had enough to go into Detroit and cover a 10-point spread. I mean, Todd Gurley was really special. I do think this defense is going to kind of come on a little bit here with Aaron Donald, getting Talib back here. Some of these young linebackers and edge rushers hopefully playing a little better with some better surrounding core. I still think it's going to be a moderate defense. They do have those holes. But this offense, if you can still do this with how bad Jared Goff played in this game, it just speaks volumes to McVay and this offensive line, who I still don't think is getting enough love, even though they're getting plenty. But this team is just a machine. And then the Saints, a tough game. I don't think anyone was really going to go into Dallas and win that game. Like, they were just playing so physical defensively. And frankly, you take away some of those Randy Gregory penalties, and this game's not even as close as it was. But the Saints, they're gonna have a home field. They might have to go into the Rams, but they're just a different team in New Orleans. The defense actually played well this week. This defense has been coming on, and I mean, Drew Brees, this offense, they're gonna figure it out. I don't think they have as good of an offense as the Rams or the Chiefs, to be honest. I don't know how sustainable, throwing to Kirkwood and Dan Arnold and Josh Hill really is. They do have a pretty significant hole at that number 2 wide receiver that they were hoping to get when they signed Dez Bryant. They don't really have a whole lot of elite receiving talent outside of Michael Thomas, obviously. So I do think the offense has a certain ceiling, but it is still obviously a top 5 offense. But when you're comparing these top 3 teams, you really are splitting hairs. And I am going to keep the Saints at number 1 and expect them to finish strong. So that's going to do it. Looking forward to hearing from you guys in the comments. Hit that like button, please. It helps me out a lot growing the channel and everything I'm trying to do here. Really helps me out. So cheers as always, guys. We'll see you next time.